What if everything you're trying to control is already controlling itself? Right now, as these words reach you, your heart beats without your permission, your lungs breathe without your command, and thoughts arise from nowhere like bubbles emerging from the depths of a dark lake. You are not making your life happen. You are life happening. Perhaps this is the most unsettling truth we can encounter, the one that makes us squirm in our seats and reach for distractions. We have built entire civilizations around the illusion that we are the directors of our own existence, the puppet masters pulling the strings of destiny. Yet here we sit, unable to control the next thought that will arise, unable to stop the constant chatter of a mind that seems to have a will of its own. Alan Watts spent decades exploring this fundamental paradox, this cosmic joke that we are all participants in without realizing it. The more we try to grasp life, the more it slips through our fingers like water. The more we attempt to force control, the more we become slaves to the uncontrollable. Today we journey into the murky waters of this illusion, into the heart of what it means to truly live rather than merely exist in a state of constant resistance. We will discover why your desperate need for security creates exactly the chaos you fear, why your pursuit of happiness leads you further from joy, and why the freedom you seek has been here all along, waiting patiently for you to stop looking for it. This is not another self-help sermon promising easy answers or quick fixes. This is an invitation to see through the veil of your own making, to recognize the profound simplicity that lies beneath the complexity of human suffering. The grip that binds us is not external. It is the stranglehold of our own misconceptions about who we are and how life works. We wake each morning with a mental checklist of how reality should behave, how people should act, how our feelings should cooperate, how the future should unfold according to our carefully constructed plans. When life dares to disobey our silent commands, we panic. Our prefrontal cortex, that prediction machine addicted to control, transforms every uncertainty into an existential threat. Every unexpected moment becomes a personal failure. Every instance of spontaneity is treated as a bug in the system that needs immediate correction. But here lies the first great paradox that Watts presents to us like a Zen master's riddle. Trying to force spontaneity is like attempting to fall asleep whilst angry. The harder you push, the more awake you become. Have you ever tried to force yourself to relax, to compel happiness, to stop thinking? How did that work out for you? The very effort defeats itself, creating the opposite of what we desire. Carl Jung called this the transcendent function, this bridge between our conscious need for control and the unconscious wisdom that already knows how to live. But we can only cross this bridge when we stop trying to build it with our own hands. We exist within a culture that has transformed control into virtue, where productivity has become sacred, efficiency divine, and performance the only valid purpose of existence. In this context, surrender appears as failure, flowing seems like laziness, and acceptance looks like giving up. But Watts invites us to consider a heresy. What if surrendering is the only truly courageous thing you can do? What if the strength you've been seeking lies not in your ability to dominate circumstances, but in your willingness to dance with them? Alan Watts used to say that you are not something that resulted from the Big Bang. You are not a victim of it. You are still the process, which is the Big Bang. The energy of the cosmos is you. If this is true, then what exactly are you fighting against? What enemy are you battling when you resist the flow of your own existence? The cosmic energy that brought galaxies into being, that orchestrates the dance of atoms and the migration of birds, that beats your heart and grows your hair, is the same energy that moves through your thoughts, your emotions, your dreams, and fears. The illusion of the controller runs so deep in human consciousness that we rarely question its validity. We have convinced ourselves that we are the authors of our thoughts, the directors of our mental movies, the captains of our psychological ships. But close your eyes for a moment and try not to think of a pink elephant. What happened? A pink elephant appeared instantly in your mind, didn't it? You didn't decide to create it. It simply emerged, like a flower blooming from the soil of consciousness without anyone planting seeds. Neuroscience confirms what mystics have long known. Thoughts arise spontaneously. You don't produce them, you discover them. Just as you don't make your hair grow or your heart beat, you don't make your thoughts think. They appear in awareness like clouds forming in an empty sky. So, who is this mysterious you that believes it's in charge? This phantom captain steering a ship that sails itself? Watts had a powerful metaphor for this predicament. He would say that you don't make weather happen, you are the weather happening. Imagine yourself trying to push the wind or command the rain. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? Yet this is precisely what we do with our own experience. We try to push our feelings, command our thoughts, control our impulses as if they were separate from us, as if we were somehow outside the natural flow of our own being. The difference between being the wave and being the ocean is subtle but transformative. The wave struggles against other waves, fights the current, resists the tide. The ocean simply undulates, embraces all waves as expressions of itself, moves with the natural rhythm that has no beginning or end. When you recognize yourself as the ocean rather than just a wave, the struggle ceases. Not because you become passive, but because you align with the intelligence that was always moving through you. There is a peculiar exhaustion that comes from trying to curate every moment of life, a spiritual fatigue that settles into the bones of those who attempt to be the CEO of their own existence. You feel it, don't you? That constant tension in the shoulders of your soul, the weight of trying to orchestrate a cosmic symphony with instruments you don't know how to play. Watts observed that most people live in a state of chronic alertness. Like generals in a war, they never declared against an enemy they cannot identify. 3 times today, catch yourself trying to try. Notice when you're making an effort to make an effort, when you're attempting to force something that cannot be forced. And then, simply witness. Don't try to stop trying, just observe the trier in action. Something extraordinary happens when we simply watch the dance of control without attempting to control it. It begins to dissolve naturally, like morning mist in sunshine. The question that echoes through this recognition is profound. If you are not the one making your life happen, then who are you really? This brings us to one of the most cruel ironies of human existence. The backwards law in action. The harder we chase happiness, the more it eludes us like a shadow at midday. There is scientific evidence for why this occurs. When we pursue positive states directly, we create negative neurochemical feedback loops. The brain interprets our seeking as evidence that something is missing, generating exactly the dissatisfaction we were trying to avoid. It's like attempting to capture the moon's reflection in water. The more you disturb the surface, the more distorted it becomes. Watts frequently quoted the ancient Zen proverb, "When the wise man points at the moon, the fool looks at the finger." Our spiritual methods, meditation, therapy, self-help books, workshops, and retreats are fingers pointing toward the moon of freedom. But we become addicted to the fingers. We collect techniques like trophies, transforming spirituality into another project of the ego, another form of spiritual materialism where the journey becomes more important than recognizing we never left home. How many workshops do you need to attend to be free? How many books must you read to understand who you are? How many hours of meditation are required before you can simply be? The seeking itself becomes the obstacle, the path becomes the prison, the method becomes the madness. We mistake the map for the territory and spend our lives studying directions instead of taking the walk. Here lies one of the deepest paradoxes of human experience. What we resist persists. What we try to expel from our experience grows stronger in its persistence. It's like trying not to think of something. The very effort intensifies exactly the thought we wish to avoid. Jung said that what we do not integrate pursues us as fate. Watts expanded this. What we try to control ends up controlling us. But what if we applied the principles of Aikido to our emotional life? In Aikido, you don't fight against your opponent's force. You use their energy to your advantage, redirecting rather than resisting. What if, instead of battling anxiety, we used its energy as fuel for presence? What if we redirected the energy of anger into clarity, the momentum of sadness into compassion? This isn't about suppression or expression. It's about dancing with the energy that's already moving through us. The backwards law is not a technique to be applied, but a reality to be recognized. Life is already working perfectly when we stop trying to fix it. The cosmic joke is that what we're looking for is what's looking. The seeker is the sought. The one who wants to let go is what needs to be released. This understanding dissolves one of our most fundamental illusions, the myth of the separate self. Look at your hands right now. Where exactly do you end and the world begin? At the surface of your skin, in the cells that constantly regenerate, in the air you breathe that becomes part of you with each moment. Watts loved to challenge our most basic assumption, the belief that consciousness is contained within the body like water in a vessel. But what if it were the opposite? What if the body were an expression of consciousness, like a wave is an expression of the ocean? Quantum physics and Eastern philosophy converge on a startling point, the impossibility of isolated existence. There is no you separate from the universe. There is the universe youing, the cosmos expressing itself through the form you call your life. At this very moment, trillions of bacteria are living in your body, without which you would die within days. Your breathing is a constant marriage with plants around the world. Your thoughts are echoes of thousands of conversations, books, experiences shared with other humans throughout history. Where is the separate you in this infinite web of interdependence? Watts used to say that you didn't come into this world, you came out of it, like a flower from a plant or a wave from the ocean. This is not merely a poetic metaphor, but a literal description of how existence functions. The boundary between self and world is as arbitrary as drawing a line in water. The air you breathe was once in the lungs of dinosaurs. The calcium in your bones was forged in the heart of dying stars. The water in your cells has flowed through countless rivers and rain clouds. You are not a separate entity moving through the universe. You are the universe expressing itself as a temporary pattern called human experience. One of the most subtle traps of spiritual development is creating a witness to our thoughts, an observer of our mental processes. I am watching my thoughts, we say with spiritual pride, as if we have discovered some profound practice. But who is watching the watcher? Who is observing the observer? Watts pointed out that this supposed witness is just another movement of mind, an additional layer of mental activity disguised as pure consciousness. True observation has no observer. It's like a mirror that reflects everything without grasping anything. A space that contains all experience without being limited by any particular content. When this recognition dawns, there's no one left to control anything. And paradoxically, this is where real responsibility begins. Not the neurotic responsibility of the ego trying to manage outcomes, but the natural responsiveness of life expressing itself intelligently through the form you mistakenly believe you are. Modern spirituality has created a new neurosis, the obsession with the present moment. We have transformed presence into another project, another spiritual achievement to be conquered. You need to be present. Live in the now. The present moment is all that exists. But making present moment awareness into another task to be executed completely misses the point. Trying to be present is like trying to catch your own shadow. The trier is always in the future, planning how to be more present in the next moment. For Watts, the true now is not a moment in time, but the absence of the time maker. It's not that you need to be present, you are presence itself. You always have been. The question is not how to arrive at the present, but how to stop leaving it. Time is a function of mind that compares and separates. Past memories are happening now. Future anticipations are occurring now. There is no escape from the present because there has never been anything else. Memory and anticipation are present functions. They happen now. Trying to suppress them is like attempting to stop your heart from beating. The issue is not eliminating psychological time, but not being hypnotized by it, using memory and planning as tools rather than living in them as realities. How do you know when you've dropped into authentic presence? There's no you trying to be present. There's no effort. There's no sense of spiritual accomplishment. It's like when you're absorbed in a fascinating conversation or lost in contemplation of a sunset. No one is doing presence. There's simply experience unfolding naturally. Watts said that true presence is like breathing. You only notice it when you're forcing it. The final paradox, when you stop trying to be present, you discover you never left home. This leads us to understanding the dance between control and surrender, the art of navigating life without drowning in the illusion that we're separate from the current. Watts loved the metaphor of the sailor. You cannot control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. There is a subtle but crucial difference between response and reaction. Reaction is automatic, compulsive, based in fear. Response is intelligent, fluid, based in clear perception. The skilled sailor doesn't fight the storm. He dances with it, using the force of wind and waves to his advantage, finding the path of least resistance while still reaching his destination. This is not passive acceptance, but intelligent surrender, the recognition that wisdom and discernment operate better through relaxed attention than through anxious planning. When you stop fighting the river of life, you can finally navigate. When you cease resisting what's happening, you can respond appropriately to what's happening. In the Tao Te Ching, there's the concept of Wu Wei, action without action, doing without effort. Watts translated this as doing only what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, in the way it needs to be done, without unnecessary drama. It's like the difference between forcing a lock and finding the right key. Both open the door, but one creates friction and resistance, whilst the other flows naturally. Sometimes not doing accomplishes more than 1,000 frantic efforts. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is nothing at all. Watts saw life as jazz rather than classical music. In classical music, every note is predetermined. In jazz, there's structure, but there's also space for spontaneous expression. Life has certain structures, physical laws, biological patterns, social dynamics, but within these structures there's infinite space for creative improvisation. The jazz musician doesn't fight against the harmony, he uses it as a platform for freedom. Perhaps your entire life is a cosmic improvisation, and you are simultaneously the musician, the instrument, and the music being played. The tension between control and surrender dissolves when you recognize that you are both the dancer and the dance, both the wave and the ocean that moves it. Modern spirituality has unfortunately become another department in the ego's shopping mall. We collect mystical experiences like stamps in a spiritual passport. I had an awakening at my last retreat. I reached the void during meditation. I found my higher self, but Watts would ask, who is collecting these experiences? Who is boasting about their spiritual progress? The ego is remarkably skilled at infiltrating the spiritual search, transforming even ego dissolution into another ego project. Watts used spiritual concepts like Zen sticks, tools pointing beyond themselves, not treasures to be accumulated. The difference between using teachings and being used by them is subtle but significant. When you use a teaching, it serves life. When you're used by it, life serves the teaching. How many people do you know who have become prisoners of their own spiritual practices, more identified with their methods than liberated by their insights? Measuring your inner peace against others is like comparing dreams. It makes no sense because each consciousness is a unique universe. Watts observed that true peace doesn't know it's peaceful. Genuine wisdom doesn't recognize itself as wise. Spiritual practices that serve awakening make you simpler, more natural, more ordinary. Practices that serve the ego make you feel special, complex, superior. How do you know if your spirituality is serving awakening or identity construction? Authentic spirituality is like good comedy. It breaks down pretensions rather than building them up. It makes you laugh at your own seriousness, question your own certainties, embrace your own contradictions with gentle humor rather than harsh judgment. In Zen, there is the concept of the gateless gate, the entrance to freedom that never existed because you were never imprisoned. Watts spent his life trying to show us this. There is nothing to let go of because there was never anyone holding on to anything. The releaser, the grasper, the controller, all are ghosts in the machine of consciousness. Characters in a dream that forgot it was dreaming. Here is the final cosmic joke that Watts loved to tell. The moment you get letting go, you realize there was no messenger and no one to receive the message. The entire project of self-improvement, the whole spiritual path, the complete search for enlightenment reveals itself as an elaborate game that consciousness plays with itself, like a dreamer desperately searching for the exit from the dream without realizing that he is the dream. This exact moment, with all its imperfections and uncertainties, is the freedom you were looking for. Not the next moment when you finally understand everything. Not the past moment when things seemed simpler. This moment, with your anxiety, your confusion, your imperfect beauty. You are not someone trying to align with the cosmos. You are an expression of the cosmos, knowing itself through human form. Alan Watts whispered at the end of his talks, "The life you are living is already the life you were looking for, and perhaps, just perhaps, you can stop searching and simply live." The art of letting go is not a technique to be mastered, but a recognition to be lived. It is the understanding that what you thought you needed to release was never really yours to hold. What you imagined you needed to control was always controlling itself. What you believed you needed to find was never lost. The river flows whether you push it or not. Your heart beats whether you remember it or not. The universe expands whether you understand it or not. And you, this mysterious awareness reading these words, exist whether you try to exist or not. The effort to let go is the only thing preventing letting go. The attempt to surrender is the last wall between you and surrender itself. In this moment, nothing needs to be different for you to be free. No condition needs to be met. No understanding needs to be achieved. No experience needs to be attained. Freedom is not a future state, but the nature of what you are right now. Reading these words, breathing this breath, being this awareness that notices everything without being disturbed by anything. This is the art of letting go, recognizing that there was never anything to hold on to in the first place. You are not the wave trying to control the ocean. You are the ocean, dreaming you are a wave, slowly remembering what you have always been. And in that remembering, the art reveals itself as effortless as breathing, as natural as sunrise, as simple as the space between these words, where all seeking ends and being begins.